Far from prying eyes, the windowless factory floors serve as a breeding ground for the oppressed masses. Their spirits were crushed under the weight of menial wages, their dignity eroded by critical tasks. Their bodies were broken by backbreaking labor. The air hangs heavy with their silent cries as they toil away, their dreams and aspirations locked away out of reach. Shamir Mackenzie's life took a fateful turn in 2005 when she found herself in the bustling streets of Manhattan, New York. As a college student struggling to pay her tuition, she faced a daunting challenge. Little did she know that her encounter with a charismatic man would lead her down a dark and dangerous path. The man whose charm and conversational skills were hard to resist quickly captured Mackenzie's attention. Their frequent meetings soon blossomed into a relationship, and Mackenzie began to trust him with her deepest fears and financial struggles. She confided in him about her desperate need to find a way to pay off her remaining tuition balance after an unfortunate sports injury ended her scholarship at St. John's University. Seemingly out of the blue, the trafficker presented Mackenzie with an enticing proposition. She could dance for clients and move into his apartment, saving money on rent while quickly earning the funds she needed. Knowing that other girls had used dancing to finance their education, Mackenzie saw this as a potential lifeline and reluctantly agreed. The trafficker wasted no time purchasing a dress and shoes for Mackenzie, preparing her for the world of dancing. He assured her she would only need to dance and have no physical contact with the customers. With a mix of apprehension and hope, Mackenzie followed him to a strip club in New Jersey. As Mackenzie stepped into the club, the atmosphere buzzed with energy. She took a deep breath, trying to quell her nerves, and reminded herself that this was only temporary. The night unfolded, and as she danced, the money accumulated. Within a couple hours, Mackenzie had made $300, giving her a glimmer of hope that she would soon be able to leave this world behind. Filled with excitement and determination, Mackenzie accompanied her trafficker to a Brooklyn, New York house. The house, however, held a dark secret. As Mackenzie offered dances to the men gathered there, one of them brazenly demanded more than she had anticipated. Shocked and enraged, Mackenzie refused, her voice rising in protest. At that moment, chaos erupted. The man's aggression triggered something within Mackenzie, and she found her voice yelling and resisting his advances. But her pleas fell on deaf ears as her trafficker, quick to protect his illicit business, intervened swiftly. With a terrifying grip around her throat, he choked Mackenzie into silence, his violent act a stark reminder of his power over her. For the next 2 years, Mackenzie's life became a haunting nightmare. Her trafficker exploited her vulnerability, subjecting her to a relentless cycle of prostitution and manipulation. Each day she endured the physical and emotional torment, trapped in a world she never imagined she would enter. Mackenzie entered the dimly lit room with a flicker of hope in her eyes. She'd been promised a chance to showcase her dancing skills, but little did she know that her dreams would be shattered. The mood turned hostile and suffocating as soon as she took her place on the stage. Mackenzie moved gracefully as the music began to play, pouring her heart into her dance. But her hopes for a simple performance were shattered when she declared that she was there to dance, not engage in illicit activities. Her words were met with rage as the trafficker, consumed by anger, lashed out at her. A punch to her face sent Mackenzie reeling, followed by a relentless barrage of kicks. Her spirit faltered with every blow, but she mustered the strength to resist. Desperation filled her voice as she tried to escape, but the trafficker's threats silenced her protests. He cruelly reminded her of the consequences her family would face if she dared to leave. Mackenzie woke in the haze the next day, lying on the cold, urine-soaked kitchen floor. Tears streamed down her face as the pain of her ordeal washed over her. Unexpectedly, the trafficker entered the room, a facade of remorse in his eyes. He approached her, offering empty words of consolation and apology, promising never to harm her again. Doubt gnawed at Mackenzie's heart, but a flicker of hope ignited within her. Maybe, just maybe, things could change. Yet her hopes were dashed once more when she witnessed the brutal beating of another girl in the house. Unable to bear the sight, Mackenzie tried to intervene, only to find herself on the receiving end of her captor's wrath again. Driven by desperation, Mackenzie finally found the courage to run away, A month later, seeking refuge with her uncle, she physically escaped the clutches of her trafficker. However, fear clung to her like a shadow, refusing to let go. She remained in contact with the captor, haunted by his threats against her family should she dare to seek help or refuse to return. The weight of her torment pressed heavily upon Mackenzie's shoulders. The inevitable occurred within 2 weeks of her escape. She returned to her trafficker. The moment she set foot back into that den of horrors, her world crumbled. Brutalized, raped, and sodomized, Mackenzie was stripped of her dignity and left with no illusion of choice. Through tear-stained eyes, Mackenzie recounted the horrors she endured, the memories of the countless beatings, the gun pressed against her lips, and the chilling question of life or death haunted her soul. For a fleeting moment, she found solace in the idea of release, believing that her pain would finally end. As the trigger was pulled, she braced herself for the sweet release of death. Yet, by some miracle, fate intervened. She was spared, left to endure the relentless blows of the gun against her head. In that devastating moment, Mackenzie's hope shattered completely, and the realization dawned upon her. There was no escape, no hope for a better life. Mackenzie had become a prisoner of her circumstances, trapped in a cycle of abuse and terror. The world outside seemed like a distant dream, an unattainable realm where freedom and happiness existed. She had lost her voice, her spirit crushed under the weight of her captor's control. Driven by fear and desperation, Mackenzie complied with her trafficker's demands, including driving girls across state lines. During their time in Dallas, Texas, she attempted to escape but returned shortly afterward. In Miami, Florida, Mackenzie turned to a Jamaican gang for assistance in escaping and seeking revenge on her trafficker. However, when the moment arrived to confront him, she changed her heart. Angered by her decision, one of the gang members sexually assaulted her and left her at a hotel. After the traumatic incident, Mackenzie brainstormed strategies to break free from her trafficker. She believed he might let her go if she didn't meet her quota. Purposefully, she started seeing fewer clients, which caught her trafficker's attention. Confronted by him, she expressed her desire to leave. Surprisingly, he offered her $5,000 and told her she could go. Sensing danger, Mackenzie fled as her trafficker went to retrieve his gun. Fortunately, a neighbor from their gated community witnessed her frantic escape and provided her shelter, food, and assistance by contacting her mother. Despite her family's support, Mackenzie feared for their safety and opted to stay with a friend in New York. However, she faced charges related to prostitution and was later arrested by the FBI for transporting minors across state lines for illegal purposes. After spending 3 weeks in prison, she was placed in a program for victims of sex trafficking, where she received counseling and housing. Mackenzie pleaded guilty to the Mann Act and received a sentence of 5 years probation. She had to do 200 hours of community service and sign up as a sex offender as part of her punishment. Upon resolving her legal cases, Mackenzie embarked on a new chapter of her life. Together, we will continue to shed light on this heinous crime, creating a world where freedom and dignity are the birthright of every individual. For as long as it takes, we will stand united, warriors in the fight against human trafficking, until every survivor finds solace and every trafficker faces justice. So that's all for today's video. If you like this video, click the like and the bell buttons. We'll have another video for you soon. Take care until then.